The Washington Education Association, which is the teachers union in Washington, held a webinar offering tips for employees to obstruct ICE enforcement. Let's talk about it in our segment, Unbelievable. Okay, so this happened last week. The WEA, which is just an extension of the Democratic Party, sent out an email to all school staff and said since some paras and many of our students, coworkers and parents of our students, are immigrants, this is an important opportunity to learn more about how to stay safe. It's members only, so join now. It's members only, but we have people on the inside. So we know what was taught and trained into staff members at our schools about what's happening. And I think this is not only about clearly they're trying to obstruct immigration enforcement, but also the lies that they're pushing about what's happening with immigration under President Donald Trump. So the title of the webinar, A Safe Space to Learn, Protecting Students, Respecting Their Families, and Building Community. And it's got a sad little boy behind a chain link fence, and he's like, help me, help me. And it was taught by J.W. Stansel, attorney at law, he, him, his. Thank you for clarifying. Okay, so the first slide, where does the labor movement fit in? You know, why is the teachers union talking about this stuff? It says stripping immigrants and refugees of their rights is part of the same playbook as eroding and ultimately eliminating free public education and restricting or eviscerating the rights of any workers to organize. Okay. So they think that, like, the immigration enforcement, and I guess that's fair, right? The people carrying out immigration enforcement under President Donald Trump, they don't want to eliminate free public education, but they definitely want school choice. So I think it's just about obstructing Trump, right? Let's just obstruct Trump on everything, because Trump also wants school choice, and apparently he wants to strip immigrants and refugees of their rights. But that's how they're shoehorning their way into this situation. This slide really ground my gears, really grinds my gears. Framing the issues. What does mass deportation look like? Well, according to them, mass deportation looks like people literally in full-on SWAT gear, military fatigues with big scary weapons and helmets and goggles on. No, that's what it looks like when they have to respond to you lefty lunatics assaulting ICE agents and blocking unlawful deportations. But it's funny that the thing is titled Framing the Issues. Yeah, that's how they want to frame the issues. They want to make teachers believe that that is literally the federal government carrying out mass deportation. I don't know where that picture came from. Somebody should do a reverse image search, but I guarantee it's down in LA, them responding to the riots and the assaults and stuff on ICE agents. Absolutely insane. Okay, let's move on, shall we? And here's where I get into, these are supposed to be educators, right? And they're educating kids. And they're just manipulating, absolutely manipulating reality. Who are the at-risk immigrants? It says 68% have been in the U.S. over 10 years, 45% over 20 years. Far less likely to commit crimes than citizens, far more likely to be victims of crimes. 45% pay federal tax withholding and Social Security withholding into accounts they will never benefit from. Let's just really one sec here. They're saying that the immigrants who are at risk are far less likely to commit crimes than citizens. How do you know that? How do you know that? Is someone, now you could look at crime stats nationally, and there are a lot of states where you could absolutely tell, like in red states, hey, we have an immigrant who committed a crime. But in the state of Washington, because of our sanctuary policies, and the same is true for other states, and there are many sanctuary states in the union, by state law, an immigrant, an illegal alien who commits a crime is treated no differently in the system than a lawful resident of that state. So in Washington state, if I killed someone tomorrow and I went to prison, and an illegal alien killed someone tomorrow and went to prison, as far as any database in the state of Washington is concerned, there is no difference between the two of us. And there is nothing by law that's allowed to indicate that that murderer in there is illegal. So you literally cannot tell us that immigrants are far less likely to commit crimes than citizens Because in states like Washington, they don't treat illegal aliens any differently in the system, even if they commit a criminal offense. So you literally can't tell us that. So they're just lying. They're making stuff up, right? Then they continue to make stuff up. It says, why don't they just get in line? So this is like a response that the teachers can give to the very reasonable question of, hey, why don't they come in legally? It says, there is no line. Legal immigration is extremely difficult. Okay. No, there literally is a line. Yes, it's difficult, but there are people today going through the process of becoming lawful citizens of this country. So don't say that there is no line. DACA and parolee recipients have no path to permanent residence and are always at risk of the president ending their temporary protected status. Also not true. If Democrats and Republicans, both parties, have had ample opportunity over the last several years, when they've had full control of the House, Senate, and the presidency, to give DACA recipients American citizenship. They have chosen not to because they've chosen instead to use them as political pawns. And it's not just Republicans. Democrats did it too. Democrats had full control on multiple occasions where they could have given DACA recipients full legal citizenship that never could have been revoked. And they chose not to do it. Deportation relief is extremely difficult to obtain. Political asylum, for example, is rarely granted. Okay? Marriage to a U.S. citizen is no guarantee. You must ask for difficult to obtain waiver of illegal presence. So they're basically, and then one of the sources, they cite John Oliver from Last Week Tonight. Gotcha. Okay, yeah. Really using some great sources there. How deportation works. Again, this is teachers being fed misinformation that they will go on, no doubt, to feed their own families and the students of the minds that they're supposed to shape, right? Unauthorized presence in the United States is not a crime. Yes, it is a crime. It is a crime, okay? That whole narrative that it's not a crime is just not true. It says violation of civil law, like cheating, it says violation is a civil law, like cheating on the IRS on taxes. So they're comparing it to cheating the IRS on taxes. You know what you can go to prison for? Cheating the IRS on your taxes. Mm-hmm. In fact, people go to prison for it all the time because it is a crime. So that's just stupid. And an attorney taught this course? Well, that attorney is an idiot. It says, because deportation for the rest of your life, where you may suffer imprisonment, torture, or death, is not a criminal punishment, a person has none of the rights that even a person accused of shoplifting has. I don't even know what that means. That sentence doesn't even make sense. He says you have no right to court-appointed counsel in deportation proceedings. 86% of detained immigrants don't have attorneys, 63% overall. Okay, here's an idea. Don't come to the country illegally. And then you don't have to worry about court-appointed counsel and deportation proceedings. And then it says this is not a Democrat or thing or a Republican thing. Yeah, I agree. Because we should all agree that illegal immigration is bad for the country and that we have to fix our broken immigration system and that we need to get criminals out of our country, and then we need to make sure that people have a better path to citizenship so they can come here and they can contribute to our economy. The left wants to paint this as people who support deportation don't believe that immigrants make our country great. No one is saying immigrants don't contribute to our country. No one is saying immigrants don't belong in our country. But everyone who has a head on their shoulders, right, left, and center, understands that coming here lawfully, there has to be a process to do that. But the Washington Education Association just literally wants anyone to be able to come here for any reason and to be able to stay here as long as they want without any fear of deportation. And that is not a country. They said, and here's where it gets into the tips portion of it. One answer to one question is all ICE needs. Where are you from? This is an example, I guess they're giving. Where are you from? If you answer, I am from Mexico, the burden shifts to you to prove your right to be in the U.S. So they're saying if ICE asks you, where are you from? You should say, the United States. So they're just telling you to lie to federal agents. But also, I don't think ICE is around on the street asking people who have brown skin, hey, where are you from? It's just not happening. They go on to say, not answering questions helps protect those who are more vulnerable by presenting a united front where we all stand together and no one stands apart. When we all refuse to answer questions, we directly resist the fascists' efforts to divide us into good people and bad people. We can present a united front against the forces that want to tear us apart, that thrive on hate and want to destroy our communities. This is taught by the to teachers in Washington State that we have to, this is an attorney, by the way, who is encouraging them to break the law and lie to federal immigration agents. An attorney who should be disbarred. Should you not be disbarred as an attorney if you're actively encouraging people to break the law? What was this guy's name again, Nicole? Because I bet we have some enterprising viewers who would love to submit a complaint with the Bar Association. J.W. Stansell. Stansell. J.W. Stansell. Attorney at law. He, him, his. I'm pretty sure attorneys can't encourage people to break the law, which is what you're doing here. And then telling all these teachers, reinforcing what a lot of these teachers of the WEA already believe, that this is about resisting fascists. This is just like resisting Hitler. What you're doing is just as justified as people who resisted Hitler. So why wouldn't they feel like, yeah, I would have resisted Hitler. I'm going to fight the fascists, so I'm not going to tell ICE anything. We can present a unified front against the forces that want to tear us apart and that thrive on hate and want to destroy our communities. So now the teachers are being taught that Donald Trump, conservatives, anyone who supports deportation of criminals, thrives on hate, wants to tear our communities apart. And then those teachers go into classrooms and they teach that to kids. Absolutely insane. Not a surprise, but important to know what's happening behind the scenes at the Washington Education Association nonetheless.
And that photo is from the LA riots.
Oh, it is?
Yeah.
Yep. Reverse image search. The LA riots. That's not what mass deportation looks like. That's what responding to a left-wing violent mob looks like, you absolute asshats.